which culminated in the consent decree being approved by Judge Brimmer.
We're driving along the barrier wall alignment. The wall is about 1.5 miles laterally and about 40 feet into the ground, keyed into our Cody Shale bedrock.
The remediation work being done at the site is following a plan created by the unique working group put together in the aftermath of the citizens' lawsuit. Bill McDowell was one of the volunteers who experienced the process from its earliest days.
We recognize that we as a small group shouldn't be making decisions for the whole community. And so, knowing that, we arranged to have a diverse group of about 20 people from all walks of life, all ages, backgrounds, what have you, attend a project called the Homework Project. And the Homework Project lasted about 2 weeks. And it came with the belief that, number one, if you give the people a common core knowledge and then ask them to make a decision and envision the future, that they would be fairly representative of the community, and that's exactly what we did. What came out of it were a variety of ideas about the remediation of the property, but what really came out of it were the values that the community held.
As the community explored options for the future of the site, Amoco and the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality were developing the legal framework for an ambitious, unprecedented collaborative approach between the industry, the regulatory agencies, and the public. The stage was now set for an historic collaboration. But if success were to be achieved, first some old habits would need to be dismantled. In the summer of 1998, Amoco and the regulatory agencies signed a consent decree setting up a new kind of process. Both sides hoped this new approach might eliminate or reduce the years of costly litigation and distrust which can often accompany projects of this scope. Vicki Meredith was the DEQ's representative for the cleanup.
We didn't really know each other. We really didn't like each other. We had gone through quite a few battles up to that point, and we had a group of people sitting out in the audience that absolutely distrusted every single person at the table. And so there was a lot of personal attacks made to not only myself but several of the other people sitting at the table, and it was very challenging and difficult.
The end of 1998 saw the merger of Amoco and BP. With the merger came a change of management at the site, and many on both sides saw this as a window of opportunity.
When Amoco merged with BP, there was the same folks in our management group that I reported to. There was definitely a change in the way that projects were viewed, especially environmental projects. In my mind, or my estimation, BP really believed much stronger in truly being a green company.
The legal framework that had been developed called for working together, not just between the regulators and the company, but involving a newly formed Joint Powers Board to represent the people of Casper and Natrona County. This would provide ample opportunity for citizen involvement. The goal was to look at the big picture and come up with a solution that everyone could ultimately live with. The collaboration would be different from the typical negotiation process in other ways as well. All parties would utilize the services of an experienced facilitator and technical consultants rather than each side appearing at meetings with teams of lawyers. The Joint Powers Board hired Ken Adams as group facilitator.
A lot of what it is just a point of focus for the meetings, for one thing. Making sure that there's a good communication process going on. There's also, I think in a case like this, there's some consultation that goes on in the sense of suggesting group processes, like suggesting processes for decision making, suggesting processes for creating ideas, resolving conflicts and things like that.
In the fall of 1998, the collaborative process finally began at a neutral site off the property. Anything but collaborative at first, it was to continue for 3 years and produce results that no one at the time could have foreseen. 4 years later, some of the people who participated in the original collaboration met once again to discuss the process they had gone through.
I don't think we could have picked a more difficult site to try and do what we did.
We weren't just looking at a cleanup, we also had a vision of what it was going to look like in the future.
It did involve a lot of resources and people and time and money, as Joe would probably agree.
And I think having Joe sit at the table and being able to make decisions at the table helped the process move along.
For me, I think as a teacher, the most exciting thing was that people learn things.
To trust that science would be used in a straightforward, honest, constructive way, because there was a lot of suspicion of science initially.
Understanding each other's needs is something that's done a day at a time, a decision at a time.
At a detail
It's
level.
never done.
Yeah, I started out with some really hard feelings. Some distrust that I thought would never be taken care of. And it turned into something much more than that, because when I see these people now, I'm truly glad to see them and consider them my friend.
It didn't happen overnight, but through trial, error, and persistence, the group began to find ways around what had first seemed like insurmountable obstacles. And some general lessons emerged about how to approach such highly charged situations. Lessons that came directly from the process of solving the specific issues of the site. Over the years, hundreds of miles of pipe had been laid at the site, and the disposition of this pipe was a matter of contention.
We knew that pipe, refinery pipe, that was used to convey products and wastewaters were probably going to be a long-term source of contamination, because hydrocarbon, gasoline, crude oil would remain in those pipes, and eventually the pipes would rust and those hydrocarbons would get released, so they would be an ongoing source of contamination.
And then looking at all the reuse that was coming up in the future, a golf course and the need to go out there and put in excavations, utility corridors, it seemed like not only from an investigation standpoint or a remediation standpoint, but just from a reuse standpoint, that pipe removal, concrete removal was going to be the most expedient and the best thing that we could do on this property.
The add-on to that was, well, if you go out and remove that pipe, that's like, doing subsurface investigation, because you got to go in and remove the pipe and rip it up. And as you do that, you can see what's going on in the subsurface.
Because it really opens it up for future development without any problems. Anybody in the future can come out here, put in a building, dig a trench, and not have to worry about coming across pipe or concrete. It's really going to make reuse of this property a lot better in the future.
Ultimately, more than 300 miles of steel pipe was removed and recycled, making way for redevelopment of the site. Together, the group accepted pipe removal and visual inspections as a superior way to understand site conditions and remove a source of contamination. In this process, everyone had benefited. One question that often plagues debates over the cleanups of industrial sites is, how clean is clean?
Wyoming's law that existed at the beginning of this process really allowed us to require only that cleanups should take a facility from a contaminated state clear back to what we call background levels. At the time we entered the consent decree, we didn't have the legal ability in the state of Wyoming to accept cleanups at industrial risk-based levels. So the law really had to be amended were we to be able to even consider these other cleanups.